The knocking began before anyone was fully awake. It was still dark in Amherst, Nova Scotia, the kind of heavy, breath-holding darkness that settles over small villages in the Maritimes during winter. Snow lay pressed hard against fences and doorsteps, and the air inside the little farmhouse was cold enough to sting the lungs. At first, the sound was faint, 3 sharp raps, as if someone were tapping on wood with the knuckles of a clenched fist. Knock, knock, knock. The family froze in their beds, listening. There was no one outside, no footprints in the snow, no wind strong enough to explain the sound. And yet the knocking continued. That was the moment, quiet, tense, unreal, when the Great Amherst Mystery truly began. And over the next several months, it would tear through this small Canadian village, drawing ministers, doctors, skeptics, believers, and terrified neighbors into a case so strange that even today, more than a century later, no one can agree on what really happened inside that house. Because whatever was there wanted to be heard. Amherst in the 1870s was not a place that expected mysteries. It was a hard-working, God-fearing community, built on farming, shipbuilding, and trade. People knew their neighbors. They attended the same churches. They trusted in order, routine, and the belief that the world, though harsh, made sense. Superstition existed, yes, but it lived mostly in whispers, old stories told by firelight, not in daily life. That sense of certainty would not survive the winter of 1878. The house at the center of it all belonged to Daniel Teed and his family. It was a modest farmhouse, wooden, practical, nothing remarkable about it. Living there was Daniel's sister, Olive Teed, a young woman in her early 20s. Olive was quiet, reserved, and by most accounts, deeply religious. She helped around the house, attended church, and lived the sort of life expected of an unmarried woman at the time. Obedient, inward, careful not to draw attention. No one suspected Olive would become the focal point of the most infamous paranormal case in Canadian history. The disturbances began subtly. Knocks on walls, scraping sounds across floors, footsteps where no one walked. At first, the family dismissed it. Old houses made noises. Wood expanded and contracted. Mice lived in the walls. But the sounds grew louder, more deliberate. They followed people from room to room. A knock would sound on the bedroom wall, then the ceiling, then the floor beneath their feet. Always 3 knocks, always close, always responsive, as if something was listening. Daniel Teed tried to investigate. He checked the walls, the beams, the floors. He went outside with a lantern, searching for pranksters or animals. Nothing. The house stood silent when examined, then erupted again once everyone settled down. Soon, objects began to move. A broom lifted itself and crashed to the floor. A pillow flew across the room. A knife slid off a table and clattered against the boards. These were not gentle accidents. They were violent, intentional acts. And always, they seemed to center on Olive. If Olive sat, the sounds came closer. If she left the room, the disturbances followed. When she prayed, the knocking grew louder. When she wept, it intensified, as if feeding on her fear. Neighbors began to notice changes in her. She grew pale, exhausted, her eyes ringed with dark circles from sleepless nights. She spoke less, ate less, and yet she insisted again and again that she was not causing any of it. Some whispered that she was hysterical. Others said she was attention-seeking. In the 19th century, young women were often accused of such things when they strayed outside social expectations. But Olive did not behave like someone enjoying attention. She was terrified. The family called a minister. He arrived with a Bible in hand, prepared to pray over the house. As he began to speak, the knocks answered him. When he asked if the spirit present was evil, the knocks came fast and furious. When he asked if it was human, they slowed 3 careful taps. The minister turned pale. This was no random haunting, the family was told. This was an intelligent presence. Soon after, the entity began to communicate. 1 knock for yes, 2 for no, 3 for I don't know. Questions were asked. Answers came back. Was the spirit once alive? Yes. Was it harmed? Yes. Was it male? No. Was it connected to Olive? Yes. The name eventually came Esther Cox. According to the entity, Esther Cox had once lived in that very house or nearby and had suffered a brutal fate. She claimed she had been murdered, her life taken unjustly, and now she was trapped, unable to rest. And Olive was the reason she could speak. What followed was not a peaceful attempt at resolution. It was an escalation into terror. Olive began to experience physical attacks. She was thrown from her bed, slashed by invisible claws, burned by unseen flames. Her hair caught fire. Blisters formed on her skin in front of witnesses. Needles appeared embedded in her clothing. Messages carved themselves into the walls. Words scratched into plaster by no visible hand. One message read, "Esther Cox, you are mine to kill." Doctors were called. They examined Olive thoroughly. They could find no illness that explained what they saw. They watched as objects flew across the room while Olive sat still, trembling, hands in plain view. One doctor reportedly saw a box lift itself and strike her in the head. Even skeptics were shaken. At one point, Olive was arrested. The chaos in the house had become so severe that authorities accused her of arson after a fire broke out. Another blaze with no clear cause. She was jailed briefly, removed from the house. And for a short time, the disturbances stopped. Then they resumed when she returned. Desperate, Olive left Amherst to work on a nearby farm, hoping distance would bring peace. Instead, the phenomena followed her. Knocking echoed through barns. Objects moved in front of employers. Fear spread wherever she went. Eventually, a man named Walter Hubble entered the story. He was an actor, a writer, and a man fascinated by the unexplained. Unlike others, he documented everything meticulously. Dates, times, witness statements. His account would later become the primary written record of the case. Hubble believed Olive was not a fraud. He believed she was a victim. He described her as sincere, gentle, and utterly overwhelmed by forces she could not control. He insisted that too many credible witnesses, doctors, ministers, neighbors, had seen too much for the events to be dismissed as trickery. Yet doubts remained. Some argued Olive was subconsciously causing the phenomena, a theory that would later resemble what we now call psychokinesis. Others believed she was possessed. Others believed Esther Cox was real. A murdered woman demanding recognition, justice, remembrance. What is certain is that the activity eventually faded. Years passed. Olive married. She lived a quiet life. She avoided the spotlight. She never profited from the story. She never sought fame. And when she died, the disturbances did not return. Today, the Great Amherst Mystery remains one of the most documented and debated hauntings of the 19th century. It sits in that uncomfortable space between belief and skepticism, where no explanation fully satisfies. Was Esther Cox a restless spirit, clawing her way into the world through the only soul sensitive enough to hear her? Was Olive Teed unconsciously manifesting trauma through violent physical phenomena in a time that had no language for such experiences? Or was the truth something stranger, something that still doesn't fit neatly into science or superstition? The farmhouse still stands. The village still remembers. And if you listen closely, in the quiet moments before dawn, when the snow presses down and the world holds its breath, some say you can still hear the knocking,